Hi, I'm North. This is my channel, North and his books, and this is week already well into the double digits in my never-ending series of videos on reaching fluency in 10 languages. And the updates I can provide this week are relatively unimportant. I mean, for one, I've been having, as many people do, a series of conversations with myself in the shower, usually involving some kind of argument that I'm winning. I always win when I have an argument in the shower. And oftentimes I find after reading or listening to something in a language that I will continue thinking and speaking to myself in that language as I then leave my computer or whatever and I walk around, whether I'm walking on the street or I'm washing myself or whatever it is. I basically maintain that language for a bit up until the point where something external pushes me back into, I suppose, English or French or whatever language is being spoken to me. So, for whatever reason, the videos that I've been watching, because I haven't been speaking Dutch, it's very hard to find Dutch people on the internet. They love to pass off as Anglophones, but for whatever reason, I have been watching videos in a variety of languages every morning, and to a certain extent throughout the day if I have a minute and I'm bored and I have something in my subscriptions. And I've been watching videos in Portuguese and Dutch and other languages, and I keep taking with me the Dutch more than I take with me the Portuguese or the Russian. Could be because I'm simply more comfortable in the language, but that also can't really be it, because when I watch something in Italian and I'm much better in Italian than I am in Dutch, I don't take it with me. I don't know. There's something going on, and I do know that my shower Dutch, my Dutch from my inner monologue, is always very good, and yet that doesn't seem to hold up in real life. In any case, this is the week that I had been planning for to a certain extent for several months now. This is the week of the 1st of July, which is tomorrow, and the idea was that I will stop going from being a passive learner of Chinese to an active learner. So I've learned a lot of basically characters, and to a certain extent I've learned how to read at a certain level in Mandarin Chinese over the past while, but I have never spoken it. Not a word. I spoke 2 words at one point to someone. I said, I am Chinese, basically. I lied. I'm not. But essentially, I can't speak it at all, and I wouldn't be able to understand a spoken conversation in any capacity whatsoever. I can only do things like read a book meant for learners, as in for lower intermediate level readers of Chinese. But I've been getting there, and I need to find a tutor. So I have already gone on italki and searched through the available tutors. It's sort of like ordering food. You find a lot of people that you feel like, I'm not really that willing to pay this person to teach me, and then you kind of close the window, and then later on you come back. I guess with food, if you're ordering from Uber Eats or whatever, you get hungrier and hungrier, and then eventually your standards are lowered to the point where you pick something. Here, I guess I don't get hungrier, but maybe I might get more desperate to improve, and eventually I will push myself to actually accept someone. What I was amazed by was that the Chinese tutors online cost money. It's obviously not very expensive compared to any in-person tutoring you might get if I were to meet someone at an actual cafe here. But I mean, they're charging more than the Russians or the Italians, both 2 languages which I've used a bunch on italki. Maybe because a lot of average Chinese do not speak English at all or nearly well enough to teach Chinese by using English to teach Chinese to a certain extent. So you need to have someone who has some ability to do both, and those people who have some ability to do both can also, they need to be better compensated for their time, and so they demand more. Whereas if I were to get an Italian tutor, online, I guess I wouldn't even need really for them to speak much English, just basic. And they're likely to speak at the very least basic English. So it's not a big deal because it's easier to get to that decent level in Italian than it is to get to that decent level in Chinese. I imagine there are a lot of very beginner students online, and that the number of advanced Chinese learners, is a tiny fraction of the number of beginner learners because so many people will start it and never make it to the top. So that's what I have to do. I have to find someone that is open to, and this is how you learn a language. I mean, you have to find someone that fits your schedule. So I need a little bit of flexibility. In general, I'm free in the mornings in my time, but I mean, I need a bit of flexibility, and I need a relatively decent price because I want to get a number of hours in, and I need for them to be someone who I know will be there week after week after week because I don't like having to restart building a student-teacher relationship with someone new. It's not that I'm stressed about it, it's just work. And I've had enough experience on italki that I know that there's a good chance when you pick a new teacher that something will go wrong, that something about them will not work out. I had used it a bit for Spanish at one point, and I remember I had a lot of difficulty with Spanish teachers because the inexpensive ones just did not give a hoot. Pardon my French. They basically, I remember one guy was like sticking his hand down his pants and scratching himself while we're talking, or I see little kids running around everywhere, and he's kind of outside and he's distracted, or it looked like he was to a certain extent on his phone. And I didn't say anything because I was paying him such a small wage per hour from my perspective, that I understand you get what you pay for. So I need to be careful. So that's where I am this week. Besides that, I have continued to watch videos every single day on a number of languages. I watch about 5 or 6 different languages every day, so not every single language that I want to be fluent in. And what I find amazing is that YouTube really seems to know me. For example, I don't watch that much in German. I have a couple of channels. One where a fellow summarizes books in a few minutes using Lego figurines. It's kind of for kids, although the books are not kids' books. They're general books of different categories. But I like the way that he speaks very quickly and that he's combining, he's putting things together, and that if you sit there for 5 minutes, you do get an impression that you learned something about that book in those 5 minutes. Whereas a lot of people, myself included, can sort of ramble on for 20 minutes without really teaching you anything or without you becoming a better person from the experience. But what is amazing is that YouTube, or whatever gigantic internet conglomerate that Google has become, seems to know more and more what I would like to watch, and moreover what my political opinions are. I don't have very radical political opinions. Pretty milquetoast in that area of my life. But without ever having really watched political things in German, and imagining that this is for the most part separate universes, so people who watch German language, politics oriented or sociological stuff don't really do that in Italian as well. Very few people, I imagine. I get recommendations now on my front page for channels that I've never seen or heard of that are not particularly large. People talking about things, and it makes me... Anyway, it really blows my mind to what extent the recommendations for what they want you to watch, or what they think you would want to watch, can go across language barriers. I know from a purely logical perspective, whatever tags this person was using in their videos can also be used in other languages, or can be correlated with searches in other languages, and so it comes up with that recommendation. I still find it rather impressive to have YouTube be so clever in what it wants to show me even when I have given it almost nothing, as far as I can tell, to work with in a particular language. That's all for this week. Happy Canada Day for those of you that are Canadian, and see you next week.